Hi everyone, today I'm going to do a different kind of tutorial than usual. I have recently been investigating neurographic art as it kept on coming up on my YouTube and other social media feeds, and I found it intriguing. It looked both relaxing as well as a little intimidating. The finished works looked quite complicated and I wasn't sure how to achieve it. So I'm going to take you along on my first ever attempt at neurographic art. As I do so, I will explain the basic principles. Then maybe you can try it too. Before we continue, I would like to give a very quick announcement. I'm excited to let you know that at the end of June, my channel name will be changing from The Travel Sketcher to Christine McLaren Art. I'm making this change because in the past year, I have started creating content that goes beyond just travel sketching. I'm hoping that my channel will continue to grow as I provide the content that you wish to see. I bought this relatively inexpensive book online. It is 210 by 210 millimeters, has a weighting of 230 GSM, and contains wood pulp paper. I got slightly thicker paper because I wanted to be able to carry a single layer of watercolor. Inside the pages are square and they've got a nice thickness to them to carry the watercolor. I'm going to use size 5, 8 and 12 Pigma Micron liner pens for the pen work. Any permanent black liner pen will do, but it must be waterproof. You can use anything that you've got on hand to do the color work. Here I've got a tin of watercolor paints that I do intend using in some of the artwork. This is a tin of normal pencil crayons that are not activated by water. And then this is a set of Derwent watercolor pencils, which you put down as normal pencil crayons, but then you activate with water to make them turn into watercolors. Because I'm working in a book, I'm going to start with the 4 sides taped down with masking tape. If you're working on a loose sheet of paper, or even if you're working in a book, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. I'm going to start with my thicker size 12 Pigma Micron pen, and our first layer is to put down our initial lines. This is probably the scariest part as we are staring at a blank page. But basically what we're wanting to do is start on one edge of the page, find our way to one of the other 3 sides of the page, but not to get there in a straight line. So think of curls and swirls in your lines, and then slowly get yourself from one side of the page to the other. There we go, I did it. Next we have a look at the page and see if we want to add any similar additional lines like the one that we've just done. When we are adding lines to our neurographic art, we don't want to start or finish the line on the page. We don't want to see the beginning or the ending of the line, so always start off the page and finish off the page, and aim to not finish on the same side that you started. In the next stage, you can add additional lines to your sketch without doing the long lines like we have already done, provided you don't show the beginning and the end of the line on the page. So as far as coloring is concerned, this area here looks very big for a single color, so I'm going to basically halve it by joining the 2 circles in the center. You can see that by joining them the way that I have, you cannot see the beginning and the end of the line that I have just added. I'm going to continue on and do some additional joining swirls for areas that I want to make a bit smaller. When friends and family have a look at some of the neurographic art that I have since finished, they ask me if it is Zentangle. Zentangle is a form of art that uses repeated patterns in a sketch, and also the lines that are initially drawn are not starting and finishing off the page as they do with neurographic art. I don't want to overdo it, so I'm going to stop now and move on to the next phase, which involves having a look at everywhere where the lines cross over each other. I'm going to change to the slightly smaller sized 8 pen, and everywhere that the lines cross over each other, we're going to round off the corners. This might seem like quite an unnecessary step, but I cannot say how much of a difference this makes and how necessary it is to your sketch. If you're in any doubt, take a photograph of your sketch before you do this rounding off, and then once the process is finished, and you will see that it makes a huge world of difference. We do the rounding off on all 4 sides of where the lines cross over each other, and you can decide if you want to make this rounding off quite gentle or quite exaggerated. The deeper you make the U shape where the crossover occurs, the more exaggerated the crossover will become. This really is the most time-consuming process of the whole sketch, but it really can be very calming and quite meditative for you to just spend the time that it takes to do this. I find that the size 0.8 pen is too big for some of the smaller crossover areas, so for those I'm going to go down to the size 0.5. I'm going to continue this process until I've dealt with every crossover point on the entire sketch. Now for the colour, I'm going to use my Winsor Newton Cotman size 4 round brush. I'm not going to state the colours that I'm using because everybody's sketch is going to look different. But from my investigations, once we are putting colour down, we want to fill in an odd number of areas in that same colour. I don't think that the number of areas that you colour in starts mattering once you start getting more than 4, but I would say try and avoid doing 2 areas in a single colour. Go for 1, 3, 5 or more than that. Having an odd number of shapes in a single colour does make it a more harmonious sketch. But you will see that there are some colours that I use that I end up doing more than 4, but after that point I stop counting. I am using the wet and wet watercolor technique here, whereby I put clean water down in the area that I'm working in first and then dropping in the watercolor after. I find that this gives me more time to put the color down and also gives me a more even blend of the paint on the paper. I'm also trying as much as I can to keep the concentration of the paints stronger towards the outside of the shape and then lighter on the middle to give it a little bit of a 3-dimensional look. It's absolutely not necessary to do this, and if you wish to do a more flat wash or even color across the shape area, then feel free to do so. It also depends on the medium that you're using as to whether you can do this technique at all. If you are using fiber tip pens, for example, then the color would be more even than this. What I enjoy about neurographic art is that it has both structure and spontaneity with unpredictability. I don't think it is really possible to produce the same piece of neurographic art twice, especially if you are doing it correctly and allowing the lines to just form as they may. A bit about the origins of this form of art. It is actually a method of therapy devised by psychologist Pavel Piskarev in 2014. It combines psychology, neuroscience, and art therapy. The idea behind the process is that specific types of abstract drawings can help reorganize neural pathways in the brain, leading to clarity and stress reduction. What you are supposed to do before you start your drawing is to think of something that is bothering you, that requires resolution. Whilst you are doing the art, you are focusing on the art process, whilst keeping this issue in the back of your mind. The aim is to work through challenging emotions through the art process in a relaxing and positive environment. The whole process of doing this art is more important than the product at the end. The process is very meditative and creates a link between our conscious and our subconscious. I encourage you to create a calm atmosphere, free of distractions before you start. That may involve making a cup of tea, lighting a candle, or putting on some classical music. Just let the process take you along with it, without any expectations, and see for yourself if you find it relaxing, and also if, by the end, you are able to find any resolution to the issue that you brought to the forefront at the beginning of the session. Once it's all complete, all there is left for me to do is to remove the masking tape. And there's the final product. Thank you so much for joining me today. Let me know what you think in the comments. Would you like me to do more of these? Until next time, bye for now.